if your son was accused of murder, would you hire a criminal attorney that has not been successful in a murder case in court?
Hell no.
We're going to be talking about a real serious topic today, which is being accused of murder. And the complexities with trying to figure out, if you are accused of murder, whether you did it or not, how to define and choose your criminal defense team. Because, let me tell you something. This is not a PI case where you got a stretched neck or you need a contract for your company. This is very, very serious stuff. You're talking 25 to life, frying in the chair. This is like, you got one shot at being right. Today we're going to be talking with Adam Banks Brown, attorney at law, criminal defense attorney, who is capital qualified, and we're going to define what that is, and J.L. Carpenter, who we all know and love. Now, these are specialists in criminal defense, and we're going to learn some of the complexities that are involved with these types of cases as opposed to maybe an assault case or indecency exposure. There's criminal defense encompasses a lot of different applications and problems. But this one is highly specialized. And we're going to learn how big that pool is of qualified attorneys that can represent you before they hang you. Okay? So, thanks for coming in today. I've been excited to talk about this because it's the things you see in movies. It's the things you see dramatized in movies with people throwing stuff and in court and all this stuff. But I want to get into the reality and the complexities associated with this. Now, my first question is, you guys are both criminal defense attorneys. You both take murder cases, and you're both qualified to do murder cases.
Correct, yes.
So what the hell are you guys doing working together? Seems like you ought to be competing against each other.
So, I met Adam back in 2006 when we were both starting our defense practices, and we even officed together for a while on Main Street, and we have mutual colleagues, but we each bring something different to the table, and when you have an overwhelming case like murder, it's nice to have a partner you can trust, someone who's more than capable and brings the experience and brings other assets to the table and work together as a team for the benefit of our client. And it works beautifully when you have the right combination.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. So let's say you got a really super talented attorney. He's really good at trial, at some other things, and he is just so inspired to get that big murder case. He's been reading the cliff notes in the movies and all the stuff that he needs to prepare, and he's going to take his shot with your future. Is that a good idea?
Well, I always
Does experience play a part in success or failure in court?
Well, it's critical, and it kind of depends on who you're talking about. So let's say you're talking about someone who maybe has been around in the criminal law system. They practice criminal law, just criminal law, but the biggest case they have is maybe a drug case. They don't have experience doing maybe aggravated assaults, aggravated robberies. Those are the other ones that we try. And so they want to have their one murder case. Okay, everybody has their first murder case. It's just, I had my first murder case. Jail had her first murder case. But it all depends on the person and what they want. And so what I liken it to is if you have cancer and you're going to a doctor. Okay. Depending on how bad that cancer is, do you want a doctor who's treating cancer for the first time? Or do you want someone that treats it as their job?
Hell no.
Right?
No, but that's one of the reasons that we put these podcasts together, so that people in these situations are not influenced by a personality, but influenced by historic facts, successes, and representations. Because you only get one shot at being right in this situation, right? I mean, the whole point of this is everything that you're doing from the beginning is to prepare to go to trial, right?
Right. So one of the things that we do is we divvy up the work, and some of it might be client relations, some of it may be pulling in the witnesses that we may need. Of course, I go through all the evidence with a fine-tooth comb, and then we come up with the defense, the theme, we decide who's going to take which witnesses. You know, he might be better with other witnesses than me, and vice versa. We enjoy a great relationship with the prosecutors that we work with, which is very helpful because it makes this experience much more pleasurable. And so sometimes, you know, he may have a better rapport with prosecutors than I do. So we just use each other's strengths and make it, you know, a solid team for the benefit of the client.
And you guys are working on 2 murder cases right now, right? Together?
Right.
So, what is the greatest challenge for the defendant once they're accused?
Well, I think that I always liken with clients, one of the things that you'll find with clients who are charged with a very serious crime is that they're overwhelmed. And in fact, you find that with clients who have minor cases, like a DWI, and they feel terrible about themselves and they just don't know what to do, and it's just this big disaster. But imagine that 10 times if you're charged with something like murder. And it's easy to just get overwhelmed and just kind of withdraw and close up and we're done. And so I think the biggest challenge for someone who is facing a very, very serious crime is to take it one step at a time and breathe deeply and say, okay, let's look at the goals and let's get through these goals, okay? So I liken it to climbing a ladder. If you are on the bottom of the ladder and you try to jump to the top, you're going to fall down and you're going to hurt yourself. Instead, go one rung at a time. And usually with these types of cases, it's get a bond, get a lawyer, start reviewing the case, start doing what you need to do to build your case. And slowly but surely you start making progress up that ladder.
Okay, let me put some finer points on this because in previous conversations, just to expose the magnitude of what we're talking about. I mean, he's was defending a murder case with 120 pieces of evidence. Okay, we're talking you can roll it out the door. All right, and then some of the things that actually happen in court. Share that because this is where, you know, these drug cases and stuff have nothing in comparison to a murder case and what actually happens during the court experience and process.
Well, again, like we were talking about, it depends on the circumstances and the events that happen leading up to the crime or in the commission of the crime. So, let's say we have a self-defense claim where someone came at someone with a stick, they had a knife, they stabbed them once in the chest, they fall down, they die. Okay. The amount of evidence in that case is going to be a lot different than, say, someone who gets into a shootout with the police robbing a bank. Okay, like you see maybe in Heat, right?
Heat.
Where, I mean,
I like those movies.
There was enough ballistics in that, you know. I mean, it was crazy. But I mean, I'll give you an example about that. And that's the thing is that on TV, you see a lot of drama and you see a lot of Andy Griffith or Matlock moments, and you see this and this crazy closings and dramatic. Okay, it is extraordinarily technical. And frankly, in many times, extraordinarily boring. It's just very dry. When you have to put in 15 shell casings, and every single one of them has to be laid in a predicate, I mean, it's very, very technical. That can just be mind-numbing. But as a defense attorney, you can never stop paying attention. You can never let your guard down. You always have to be there because that one little piece of evidence could be critical. And, you know, the thing about it, too, is we were talking. Jail and agree, anything can happen at trial. Crazy stuff happens at trial. And we as defense attorneys, the good ones, you'll notice that in the middle of a trial, we could be looking at evidence for months and months and months, the same evidence over and over and over again. And then something is said by a witness, something is said by the prosecutor, something, and all of a sudden, we see it, and we catch it, and we are like bulldogs. Pit bull, right? We will latch onto that and run with it. And you would be surprised how many times, you can ask any criminal defense attorney, how many times just that little piece that you latch onto, that juror, one or two jurors are like, yes. And that's all you need.
Which is a perfect reason that if you are accused of murder, that you need a criminal defense team representing you and fighting for you as opposed to just going down the river, right? Because there are potentially mitigating circumstances that can adjust your final sentencing that may give you another life after this experience.
Yeah, well, and two minds are better than one, right? But I think what you were referring to earlier was one of the trials that Adam was in, a murder trial. The prosecutor had put a piece of evidence into evidence that had an article attached to it. Now, they didn't do it on purpose. It wasn't intentional, but it caused a mistrial. And those are the things that anything can happen in trial. I've been in trials where the prosecutor thought that the witness was going to say wonderful things for their case, and then it went south really quickly, and it ended up being an asset for the defense. We turned that witness into a witness for the defense. So anything can happen when you go to trial. And another thing we talked about was the fact that if you take a plea negotiation, you waive your right to an appeal. So once you plead, there's no reopening that case.
That's something I did not know. So if you take a plea deal, there is no appeal.
No.
You're accepting guilt, and it's unquestionable.
Right, and that's what's so painful when I have people come to me who, didn't do the research on lawyers or took a court-appointed, not knocking court-appointed lawyers, but they do have a busy docket, and they plead because it was the easier thing for them to do, but they plead to something they didn't actually do. And they'll say, well, my wife made this complaint and she told them I didn't do it, and we were going through a divorce, but he pled guilty, got time served. That's a final conviction. Waive your right to appeal. There's no turning back from that. And I can't reopen it for this guy, and now he's got this on his record. Nothing I can do about that. It's so painful to see people take plea deals to things they didn't do.
How do they get in a situation where they start accepting plea deals without having some lawyer advise them?
Well, they have lawyers, but let's say you're in custody, you've been there 3 days, the bond's too high, you can't make it, and the court appoints you an attorney and you just want to get out of jail so you can get home and go back to work. And so the easier thing to do is just take time served. The time you did, that's your punishment. And we're talking like misdemeanors, but it's a final conviction, and you can never get that off of your record.
Okay. So, any closing thoughts?
Well, I would just say that if you are dealing with a very, very serious case, and it doesn't necessarily have to be murder, thank goodness there aren't that many percentage-wise murders that we have to take care of, okay?
Okay, you know what? I didn't ask you this question, and I started to. So, just to quantify this, out of all the attorneys in Houston, and you're accused of murder, what percentage or what number of attorneys do you think exist in the pool for you to choose from in that situation? Roughly.
If you're talking about going and hiring,
hiring an attorney,
I would say,
and somebody that is competent and capable of representing you properly in a murder case.
I would say maybe, I said 25 to 50 before. I think it's higher than that. It's probably more like 50 to 75.
Okay.
In the entire Harris, I'm talking about Harris County.
And
not that many. How about that?
I mean, there's so many lawyers practicing now, I think they've got their own population definition. Okay? I mean, they say that there's more lawyers coming out of school than there are practicing, right? That I've heard that somewhere before. But the main thing is, in this particular case, murder, and in many of the assault cases, which can carry a 25 to life sentence, you need people that are experienced and have won in court. They have done this before. They understand the process, and they understand what they have to do to win or to get a reduced sentence. That just do not gamble with this. With your buddy you play golf with, you respect him because he's successful doing something else. This is highly specialized, and you don't play with this. You get one chance to win. You better get a superstar team to take care of it.